I wanted to build an offline first ERP system for my current firm, which includes features like CRM, HRMS, stock management system, supply chain management, a separate e commerce section, an intra chat system, and a few more functionalities. I was trying to find a tool to build this system. In fact, over the last few years, I have used different frameworks, libraries, and CMSs to build websites, but none of these tools were good enough to build this particular ERP system. So, after giving it a lot of thought, I decided that it is time to build my own framework. And while doing that, I'm taking you along that entire journey. Hi, I'm Karthik, and welcome to what I think will be an epic development journey. And why do I think it is epic? Because over the next several months or maybe years, I'll be documenting the process of building an entire web framework from ground up. From designing the architecture of the system, or we can call it a system design, to writing the code, to writing the unit tests and end to end tests, finding the bugs, refactoring the code maybe several times, to benchmarking the system, to getting the feedback, and to implement new features, and so much more. It will definitely be an interesting journey. But before we even write a single line of code, I wanted to explain to you, why do we even need to create a new web framework? Can't we use an existing one? It's a good question. To explain that, let's look at the current state of web development. So, what options do we have in 2025 to create a full fledged website? I think we can categorize the currently available tools into four sections: CMSs, frameworks, front end builders, and web based builders. So, CMSs usually provide a way to create predefined data types in the backend and a lot of customization to present that data in the front end. Frameworks, on the other hand, does not restrict you to create a predefined data type. We can define the data types and create the data, but a lot of coding is needed to create these structures, and also front end is completely on us. Front end builders, as the name suggests, only allow us to create the front end part. Then we can use APIs to communicate with these frameworks or headless CMSs. And web based builders are Webflow, Wix.com, and recently all the AI based web builders. Now, I won't get into any of these because they are usually not open source. We will come back to AI part later. Apart from these tools, there is something called as Frappe. Now, the team behind Frappe calls it as a low code framework, but it is not a framework as I have described earlier. It is a combination of framework, a CMS, and a basic front end builder. Some of the tools available under each of these categories are really, really great tools. For example, WordPress is a CMS that powers like 40+% of the entire web. Then we have other CMSs like Drupal, Joomla, Django, Ruby on Rails. They are all really good tools. Then we have frameworks like Express.js, Laravel, Next.js. In fact, Next.js is a tool that makes React development really, really easy. If these tools are really great, then what is the issue? Now, the main issue I have with all of these tools is that none of them have offline first design by default. It is possible to create an offline first app using any of these tools. In fact, we can create almost any kind of website using any of the tools. But I think it is better idea to create our own web framework by keeping in mind the offline first design as a core feature. Apart from this, we also have other issues like performance, the ability to add new features, or at least the availability of an option to add the features we want. For example, WordPress is a really flexible tool, but the PHP core feels outdated. You install 10 plugins, there are 1,000 styles and scripts loaded in the front end. Performance is not really great. Then we have frameworks like Next.js, where the performance might be really good, but you have to do all the tasks manually for creating backend and front end. And I'm definitely not into writing code to create simple buttons in every single projects. It should be as simple as drag and drop. Then there is Frappe. It's a very powerful tool. We can create very powerful websites and systems with Frappe. I liked it so much that in my current firm, I'm using it for our ERP system, but except for e-commerce functionality and the chat system, because it allows us to create so many features, but the core is somewhat rigid that even if we want to alter the core little bit, it becomes very, very difficult. So essentially, I'm yet to find a tool that does almost everything what I want. And if you're into web development for more than like 5 years, you will agree with me. And that's why we are building a new web framework. And while anyway we are doing that, let's also make it as a good framework. and let's open source it so that everybody can use it. How are we going to create a good framework? So here is my vision. What I will do is I will list down all the features which I want. I'll not keep that list as rigid. Anybody can contribute to that feature list, and we will make it flexible so that we can add or remove the features we want in future. Then we will also list down all the negatives of other frameworks which we want to avoid. In fact, we can go through the disadvantages of all the frameworks and CMSs and make sure that we avoid them. Now, it is definitely not possible to create a framework which will not have any disadvantages, but we will try to minimize them as much as possible. And finally, we will get feedback from multiple developers and make sure that the thought process behind our base foundation is really good. In this video, what we will do is we will list down all those main features so you have a fair idea of what we are up to. Then later we can refine it. Let's go ahead with the complete feature list. The first one is dynamic doc type creation. Think of it like creating database tables for our entire application. Everything within our framework will be doc types, and each doc type will have multiple configurable fields. And whenever we create a doc type, we will automatically get all the CRUD operations endpoint for that particular doc type. So the second feature is local first and partial DB sync. So here what we will do is we will make our front-end app maintain a local database so that it works offline. And this local database will be automatically synced with the central database. Everything need not be synced. Only what user needs can be synced. It is the partial DB sync. Next one is multi-site architecture. What we will do is that one instance of our framework should be able to create multiple sites. Now these sites can have different ports assigned to them. It can have different domains, subdomains, subfolders. Then each site can have its own plugins, its own routers, and a few more. Next feature is separate backend and frontend. This is for clear separation of concerns. Our backend will only handle the data logic and the frontend will handle the presentation layer. Next feature is built-in visual builders. So we will have UI builder, that is drag and drop builder for the front-end templates. Then I'm not sure if we need to create the same for the backend. Maybe we will have backend dashboard created by the framework, or we can also make it as a builder to create the backend dashboard. Next feature is complete auth system. Here we will create users, user roles, permissions, and everything related to users and authentication system. Hooks and plugin system. This is very essential feature according to me. Hooks will enable our users to alter the core according to their needs. Then the plugin system will enable them to extend the features. In fact, we will create most of the features within our framework as plugins so that the core of the framework remains ultra lightweight. Next feature is API and WebSocket with versioning. Maybe we will use OpenAPI. So the front end will be able to fetch the data from the backend using APIs. Then WebSockets will be used to push the data from the backend to the front end. Next feature is self-update. The framework should be capable of updating itself, as well as all the plugins can be updated by the framework. Next feature is background processing. This is for all the background jobs, queues, cron tasks, webhooks, etc. Next feature is import and export. There should be a default way to batch import and export all the doc types. Next one is accessibility and internationalization. All the UI components, we will follow accessibility guidelines, and also all the text strings which are rendered on the front end will be internationalization ready. We will have 100% test coverage. What we will do is we will install a test framework. We will create a gatekeeper, which is just a code that allows to push the code only if there is 100% test coverage. Next one is developer tool. This will be a dashboard to test the APIs, trace the requests, list all the app components, etc. Essentially to make the developer's life easier. Next one is zero config development. What we will do is we will have nice defaults for all the configs so that starting the base app or starting the development will be very easy. Then we will have AI readiness as a feature. Now I have no idea how to achieve this, but we will have properly structured backend, properly structured front end. Then we will have well-defined APIs. All these things put together, I think we can feed that into existing AI models, or maybe we can create our own model. I don't know, but I think it will be a good start. Finally, performance as a feature. What we will do is we will create a gatekeeper to publish the code only if framework passes a performance test against a standard. So what do you think about this feature list? I think we have a decent list to start with. Of course, let's not keep this rigid. We can add or remove features later. Let's move on to the next step. Over the next few months, what we will do is that we will build this complete system from scratch, step by step. So I will divide those steps into 4 phases. Let's go through them one by one. So in the first phase, we will lay out the foundation for the entire framework. So we will do language and tool selection. We will design the architecture. We will create a base backend structure. We will create plugin system. We will create a developer tool. We will also create dynamic doc type engine. We will create self-updating mechanism. And also we will create multi-site architecture. In the second phase, we will move to the UI layer. We will create a front-end base. We will also create backend dashboard. And for the front end, we will create this local database with sync capabilities. In the phase 3, we will implement all the advanced features. We will create API and WebSocket. We will create UI builder. We will create background jobs and webhooks. We will create CLI tools, internationalization and accessibility, caching and performance optimization, and we will create comprehensive testing suite. Now, testing suite, I think we can also create in the foundation step. Let's see. And fourth phase, we will do real world testing. We will build actual applications using our framework. Then we will get community feedback and update if anything. And finally, we will create documentation and tutorials. Let me be completely honest about what we are up against here. Some of the features which I have listed here are really difficult problems to tackle. For example, consider a scenario where 2 offline users try to update the same record. When they come to online, what happens? There needs to be a conflict resolution system, which seems like a very difficult challenge. Then we will make everything pluggable. Making everything pluggable and maintaining the performance is very difficult as well. And implementing all these features and still not losing the performance is another big challenge. This is by no means an easy project. We are essentially building what usually takes a team of developers years to create. Meanwhile, I'm also working in an agri-tech startup where I'll be balancing my time between my work and this project. So expect at least a year to pass before we even reach a stable version. But I can confidently say one thing, that I have built multiple pieces of these softwares before in different projects over the last 12 years of my career. So the real challenge is not building a single feature, but making them all work together seamlessly is a challenge. Here is my request to you all. If this project sounds interesting to you, follow the code. I'll be posting everything in GitHub. I'll be creating RFC pages. I'll be creating GitHub discussions. Be a part of the discussion. Give your inputs. Your inputs will directly affect the development of this framework. And as and when features become ready, I also need developers for testing. If you're interested in that, I'm more than happy if you contribute. And share your pain points. What issues did you face in some of your previous projects? How can we solve them? Let's discuss. Share this news with your engineer friends. Let them know about this project. If more people get involved, the better the framework will be. And you may ask, why am I creating these videos and wasting time rather than focusing on development? The simple answer is, when I create these videos, I'll be thinking out loud when I add any code to the framework, when I make any changes. So if I make any mistakes, you can correct me. We can create a fail-fast system. And second is community input. If somebody watches these videos and gives their feedback, it will make the framework better. Even if you will never use this framework, we will all together learn about system design, offline first architecture, building developer tools, and many other concepts. And if you're shouting at me that world doesn't need another framework, there are already thousands of them, use one of them, then I completely understand. See, they have all solved pieces of this puzzle, but I don't think anyone has solved this complete picture, especially keeping offline first and AI readiness in mind. Look, maybe the world doesn't need another framework, or maybe it needs this one, who knows. Maybe trying to build all these features together will teach me that it is not the greatest idea after all. Maybe it will teach me that why they are usually separate tools. Either way, I think the attempt is worth making and the journey of trying is worth documenting. If you made it so far, I am 100% confident that you know the problem is real. Let's get on to solving that problem. In the next video, we will decide on the language and build tools to use. We will also dive deep into technical architecture. And I'll also be setting up a development environment live so that you can follow along. And in the upcoming videos, we will look into backend structure, the plugin system, and then step by step as I explained earlier. See, whether I succeed or fail spectacularly, We are going to learn a lot about system design, developer experience, implementation details, and what it really takes to build a tool that builds the web. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video where we will start building something real. Namaste.